Oh my God! Y'all better hold on today.
We're coming with it today. I told you. I told you on the last episode. I told you I couldn't hold this in no more. It's coming.
This man across the table from me is spitting fire, brimstone. He is full of piss and vinegar. He's coming at it. I'm coming
for WWE's ass.
Oh God! Not the ass.
Yeah, I'm coming for their ass.
Well, before we go to the ass, we got to start the show there, Frank.
Oh hell, we ain't recording. Oh.
Can we start the show, please?
All right.
Oh, yep. Here we go. Welcome to the Bookers Alliance podcast, where we hold the pencil and the pencil is power. Coming at you right now is your host, Marky Mark, along with the man, the myth, the legend, Frank Donaldson. Join us as we discuss the ever-changing landscape of professional wrestling. So hang on tight, you jabronis, and enjoy the ride. All right, welcome in, everybody. Guys, y'all better hang on tight today. This is going to be a crazy one. Thank you for joining the Bookers Alliance podcast. We appreciate you. Pull yourself up a ringside seat, but I want to tell you.
Get your popcorn ready, too.
And you might want to be ready because I feel like we're going out in the crowd for this episode.
This is going to be one today.
So
steel chairs are swinging today.
So the topic is WWET. Is going on with the titles.
Oh my God, what the is going on with these titles? I cannot believe this.
And Vince, I'm gonna go ahead and apologize up front because there may be some times we say belt in this episode, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's gonna be what it is. I'm apologizing for any swearing. I mean, we're gonna try. We don't usually edit. We try and give you guys raw shows, but we might have to edit some of this out today to keep our PG-13 rating.
So, as per the topic for today, we're going to talk about the state of the WWE and where they are with their titles. If you've watched Raw, you've watched SmackDown, you're seeing some funky things going on. You're seeing red titles on blue brands. You're seeing blue titles on red brands. You're seeing
NXT titles on the main roster.
You're seeing Roman walking around with 300 titles. I mean,
goodness.
So all kinds of things going on. So we want to take a minute, talk about all of this. What are our thoughts on it? And, how are we going to fix this?
Well, they got to fix this. I mean, this is making my head spin on a daily basis. They got to fix this. It's ridiculous.
So let's start off. Let's talk about how did we get where we are?
Well, first, let's disclaim, because you said Roman walking around with 300 titles. We got to let him. We are recording this before the pay-per-view this weekend, so Roman actually may be walking around with 2 more titles in a couple of days, but we don't know. So we're not spoiling anything for anybody who hadn't watched it, because as of right now, we ain't watched it.
Yeah. So the pay-per-view talking about Night of Champions, so we don't know what's going to happen. Let's talk about how we got to where we are.
All right.
So first off, let's get the elephant out of the room. Roman. Let's talk about Roman and the unification of his titles.
Yep. So he won the Universal back in Payback of 2020. In the heart of the pandemic. Then he beat Brock Lesnar 2 WrestleManias ago for the WWE title, making him the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion. Oh God, making my mouth tired even saying it. Jesus.
Or the Blue Universal.
There you go. I love that. The blue, like with Blue Tista. Yeah. Blue Tista should come back and win those belts. That would be fun.
Yeah. So he unified the belts. We've seen this happen in the past, but then, they finagled their way into splitting them back up. But with Roman, fortunately or unfortunately, the storyline going on with him was just so good that it actually fit.
It did. I mean, it made sense for the storyline, but I'll be honest. And I mean, listen to the archives. You've heard us rave about the whole Bloodline storyline and everything that they've been doing. But this title nonsense, it's so convoluted. It's making me lose interest even in that storyline now, because he's going into a pay-per-view this weekend. I get it. They want to focus on the World Heavyweight Championship, right? They don't want to have Roman defending his belts and take focus. So now they got him wrestling for the tag belts. All I'm thinking is well, if he wins, my God, now they're going to have to bring every Bloodline person out there with a belt to have him, they all hold him up when he does his entrance and damn WWE 2K24, the modem's just going to explode. The running engine can't handle all that. It can barely handle 2 titles. I mean, damn if it can handle 5.
So, yeah, with him having both belts, you spoke about the tag belts. Let's get into that real quick. So the tag belts was unified by the Usos.
Yep. They were the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, and then they went over to Raw because Roman said, to go along with the storyline, which at the time was a good play. We run all of wrestling, even though we're on different brands, blah, blah, blah. Usos unified the Raw titles, and then KO and Sammy beat them at WrestleMania. Now they're somehow or another drafted to Raw, but on Raw every week with a set of red belts and a set of blue belts.
They're champions. They float, man.
I guess they're called the Undisputed Tag Team Champions, so they're not really called the Raw and SmackDown Tag Champions. So, I mean, I guess.
Yeah, and granted, we kind of know, we don't know, but this is my guess. The reason why that they unified all these belts, I mean, the pictures, the images of the bloodline carrying all this gold.
Yeah.
How do you solidify them amongst everything else that's going on in pro wrestling? Is you just strap them with titles and I mean, just carrying around everything that you can imagine. The only thing that was missing was Solo didn't have a belt.
Yeah,
that
he
was
did
missing.
for a minute. Remember when he first came over, and then he won the
yeah.
NXT North American Championship?
That's right.
And then I think they realized they're like, all right, now we're even bringing up damn NXT belts here. We got to somewhat situate this. So they sent the NXT title back down to NXT. But yeah, for a hot minute there, even Solo had a belt. And I mean, I get this. This isn't unprecedented. The NWO used to have all the titles. The Four Horsemen had all the titles. Evolution had all the titles. Right. DX had all the time. All great factions get to a point where they're all covered in gold and they're all champions. I get it. In formulaic wrestling, the old is still new again. But what are we in now? What are we doing at this point? We just had a draft. The purpose of the draft is to get everybody away from each other,
right.
To reinstitute the brand split that we had been playing hokey pokey with for a few months. We did all that saying, these guys are going to this brand, and they'll never be seen on that brand again, blah, blah, blah. Very next night, after the very first night of the instituted draft, damn Usos were on Raw, and I'm like, what the hell is this?
That was a 24-hour rule.
Yeah, something like it didn't even make it 24 hours. By the end of the draft, at 11 o'clock one night to the very damn next night on Monday night, we got crossover again, and now we've had Sammy and Kevin and KO. They've been on SmackDown now, so nothing changed. We had a draft basically for nothing.
Speaking of 24, and we talked about how the bloodline was carrying all the gold, how funny would it have been for Paul Heyman to go slimely just sneak that 24/7 belt out of the trash can when Nikki threw it?
That would actually make sense.
And he would carry the 24/7.
We always say Paul's digging around in the garbage for stuff anyway. So yeah, that definitely would have made sense. That would have been awesome. But WWE was so busy focusing on how can we jumble up this title mess here. They didn't think about how they could have done that.
Yeah,
that would have been great though. That would have been classic.
So again, we've seen belt unifications before. I don't know that we've ever seen the tag belts unified like this.
So yeah, the tag belts were unified when they came out with those gold junks, or those copper junks. I mean, I'm sorry, not the gold ones. Remember the SmackDown and Raw champions? Yeah. My bad.
Okay.
Remember the SmackDown and Raw champions before? I remember the new Heart Foundation.
Were they gold or did they look bronze?
So the Raw belts were black with like a red globe in the middle, and then the blue belts the SmackDown belts were gold with a blue middle. The blue belts kind of look like the old school world titles, like the world belts they used up until like 98. The SmackDown brand kind of looked like that. Then the Raw brand kind of was.
I barely remember that.
Yeah, a lot of teams like RKO, Rated RKO, Randy Orton and Edge, they won those red belts. The blue brand was kind of when the Usos first came around, teams like that. But they got to a point where they unified them, and then I think it was the New Heart Foundation when it was D.H. Smith and Tyson Kidd. I think they unified them. Now I'd have to fact check that, but I know for a fact they were unified champs at one time. But then they brought those copper belts in. Remember the new design, the design we got now, but when they were black and copper?
Yeah.
Yeah, those things. Those were the very first unified tag team champions that we had in WWE. And I remember everybody hated the copper belts. I remember New Day won them a whole bunch of times. And New Day was like, man, these things are horrible. And as soon as they lost them the last time, that's when they came out with the new design. And I can even remember Kofi flat out saying, you guys would wait till we're no longer champions to debut this after that nonsense we had to run around with for the last year.
Could you imagine if New Day actually designed a custom belt?
Oh, good Lord.
What that would look like.
They will one day. When one of them retires, you know they're going to come out with one of those New Day signature belts or something like
that. It looked like a bag of Skittles.
I was going to say it's going to have Bootios on there somewhere, and the cartoon faces, and damn Xavier will up, down, down, and my goodness, that's going to be a cluster F.
Oh, speaking of cluster Fs,
well, that's this whole title mess.
Let's talk about this draft and how it screwed up the belt branding. So, what I mean by that is you got Rhea Ripley on Raw.
She's on Raw right now.
Running around with the SmackDown belt.
With the SmackDown
and Bianca on SmackDown running around with the Raw belt.
And same difference. Now, Bianca was already champ, right? So she came into WrestleMania as the champion. Rhea won the title at WrestleMania. They had to have known at WrestleMania that this whole draft thing and they were going to reinstitute the brand split. They had to know all this was coming. So instead of figuring out a better way to fix it, they kind of played loose, footloose and fancy free with, well, we'll just do it and figure it out later. And now there is no figure because everybody talked bad about when they did the same thing before with Becky Lynch and Charlotte.
They did.
And then they tried to go in the ring and hand off the belts, and Becky and Charlotte were already not really getting along, and that fell apart. Hard feelings came out of it, blah, blah, blah. So there was no way they could try and do that again, even though Bianca and Rhea get along. We've seen them get along before in ring segments and things like that. When they first won the championships, they showed them. We're in a different situation now with Rhea being in her faction, and Bianca's really doing her thing completely different. So they can't do any more handoffs. So you're not just going to switch titles. So why do you get yourself into this?
Yeah.
There was definitely better ways to have booked themselves out of this, to have avoided getting into this situation. But it seems like they just took the easy way out of, we'll just fix it later. Well, now here we are, 2 months removed from WrestleMania? Mm-hmm. There ain't no fix.
It's so weird, too, seeing the belts on the wrong brand.
Yeah, because
it's kind of jaw-dropping. I mean, you're sitting there, you're looking at it, and you're going, that's not the right belt. This is the wrong show.
I think they're figuring it out now with what they're doing with the World Heavyweight Championship, as they've come up with a new design and it's not brand specific. Because, the Universal belt, it's on the blue brand. It's the blue belt. Same thing with the women's belts. The backgrounds match the color of their shows. Well, now when you see them on the wrong show, you clearly know it's the wrong show. They're calling them the SmackDown Women's Champion, but they're saying it on Raw every week. Rhea ain't been on SmackDown in 2 months. Why? Why is that belt still over there? You got to come up with a different design and not label them the SmackDown belt, the Raw belt. You just label them whatever they are, and then you can make it work. I mean, let's not pile on here, but hell, AEW does the same thing. I mean, the TNT belt gets defended on the TBS network every week.
Right.
I don't know if it's been on the damn TNT network on Rampage and ever, but it's still the TNT belt. So they've also painted themselves into a little bit of a corner, but nobody puts that much stock into that because it's all still Turner. SmackDown and Raw, the purpose of the draft was to get the brands separated. We're completely doing away with the whole, flip-flop. I'm here, you're there. Next week we're the same. But when you don't fix this title situation, you've done all that for nothing.
So let me just put something in right here. We got a point later on in the discussion about how do we fix this. When you were talking,
don't forget it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna forget it, but it made me think about something.
Because they need all the help they can get on fixing it. So any suggestions that we got are good. If y'all got some out there, send them in to us. We'll forward it on. Anybody got anything? Because they don't have nothing. So
no.
And if they do, it's the slowest damn crawling, developing plan that we've ever seen. They're at a snail's pace.
So let's talk about the new belt that they're getting ready to introduce, the new World Heavyweight Championship.
Yep, that's what they said.
The WWE World Heavyweight Championship.
No, not the WWE, just the World Heavyweight.
World Heavyweight Championship.
So it's an extension of the big gold belt that they used before.
So Randy Orton was.
Yeah, Randy Orton would be the last champion until
2013.
2013, yeah, because when when he had it last, that's when they unified, and he was the last to hold it. Then it just kind of went away.
So how did it get in Cena's hands and Cena handed it to Flair that night?
That was before Randy Orton beat Cena, but so Cena had it because how did all that come about? So they unified it. I believe Randy Orton and John Cena unified the belts because I think Randy was the.
And then Randy took the one belt and John gave the other belt back to Flair?
No, so John did that that was on an episode of Raw where he handed it to Ric Flair, but that wasn't when the belt was last seen. He just did that on an episode because Rick was there.
Oh. Okay.
But afterwards, John came back out with those two belts a couple more times. And then I think that's when they did the whole, we're going to just consolidate, and they phased that belt out, and then they used the new WWE Network logo as the single belt going forward. And then that's where that kind of picked up from that.
Gotcha. But some positive about this new belt. It's pretty.
Yeah, I mean, they took a lot of the influence from the World Heavyweight Championship, the big gold, the one that if you've listened to our belt episodes in the archives, you see that we both voted as the best wrestler belt of all time. So, I mean, they took a lot of pieces from that and just kind of expanded on it, kind of put a new coat of paint on it, as you would say. They kind of did, dressed it up a little bit. So I'm anxious to see when it comes out. Being a belt collector as I am, I'm definitely anxious to see when it comes out here. But also as a belt collector, this whole belt thing frustrates because I feel like damn Roman's collected faster than me now. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, and by the way, listeners, if you ever do meet Frank, just know that this man will spend your money quicker than a hiccup. Because now he's got me in the belt collecting.
Hey, if I'm interested in something, I'm gonna share my hobbies with anybody. Anybody who's ready to listen, I'm willing to share my hobbies with you. And just if you let me sell you on it, then hey, what can I say?
Yeah, I snagged that new WWE shop Crumb Rhyme.
Nice.
So, yeah,
there we go. We got to start getting some pictures up here. We got to get these belts out here. There's no point in us just having them for ourselves. We need to get them out there for the world to see.
Absolutely, get them in the sunshine.
Oh yeah, there you go.
But with this belt, with it going in, obviously the inaugural match is going to be between Seth Rollins and AJ Styles. I think that is going to be, no pun intended, a phenomenal match.
Yeah.
Don't know if the phenomenal one is going to come out the winner or not, but
if he does, let's go down that path just for a minute. If he does, that convolutes this whole nonsense even more. Yep. Because now that's the dedicated Raw Heavyweight Championship because of where Roman went. But damn, you got a SmackDown guy wrestling for it. If AJ wins, does he immediately transfer over to Raw at that point and leave his brethren in the OC behind in SmackDown? Or does that belt, is that title enough to make a package deal where now you have to send all four of the OC over?
The OC did get drafted together.
Yeah, they got drafted together to SmackDown.
But if he wins the Raw exclusive title and goes to Raw, I would assume the OC goes to Raw.
How can you assume that, though? I mean, why would that be a thing? So
maybe Luke Gallows is going to carry the belt for AJ.
There you go. So we say all this to say it ain't likely that AJ's winning.
No.
It's likely that he'll put on a great match, but it ain't likely
absolutely.
He's winning.
It's going to be a phenomenal match.
At this stage of the game, Seth is there's two strong faces of Raw right now, and that's Cody and Seth. Seth being the second. Cody kind of coming off his WrestleMania loss, but big win over Brock Lesnar. So, Cody's got his own thing going on right now. So the title's basically created and served up to Seth Rollins on a silver platter. I fully expect him to walk away with the title, as to not convolute this whole situation anymore. It'll make it's a nice, clean, simple fix, even though it's predictable as hell. But Seth getting that championship, I think he'd be a good first champion for it. He was the first NXT champion, so he, ushered in that era of titles in the WWE. So him ushering in this era of titles would also, would seem fitting, especially with Triple H. He was in charge of NXT when they crowned their first champion, and this will be truly the first heavyweight champion that Triple H crowns under his new regime. So
true.
It would make sense that Seth would be the guy in both positions. So, okay, all well and good and I'm okay with it, even though, like I said, it is predictable. I'm good with it. So seems like maybe we can sort some of that out. But let's say we sort it out that way. Then what the hell happens to the black belt on the other damn show?
So there you go. So let's use that as a beautiful point to transition into our next bullet point of Roman having these two belts. Because, first off, everybody's take away how we feel about the belt design and how pretty it is. Take that out of the equation. Everybody is feeling like, well, this is a loser's prize.
The third belt.
Yeah, this is a loser's prize.
At this point now, it's the third belt. So if you're going to do this, right, if you're going to go down the path that they did, and they knew it, let's say they knew it at least a week ahead of time, right? Because, you at least got to plan this out a week ahead of time. Why not just strip Roman of the black belt or the blue belt? Because you don't want to get rid of the black belt. The black belt's got the longevity. It's got all the history in WWE's titles. You're never going to get rid of the WWE Championship. It's just not going to happen. The WWE World Heavyweight Championship will always be a staple of WWE, unless it becomes the Endeavor Championship, which that's a whole other world to talk about.
Oh, don't! Oh God!
It could happen.
That left a bad taste in my mouth.
Maybe, but we could be moving into
Endeavor World Heavyweight Champion.
We actually could be moving into World Wrestling Endeavor Wrestling.
Please no.
I mean, the E is already there. You just change the E from entertainment to Endeavor.
World Wrestling Endeavor.
That could be what we're going into.
Can we get them future endeavored?
I mean, we need to do something with that. Or maybe we'll just get the TKO Championship. I mean, TKO. Maybe we'll get the WWE or I don't know, whatever. Nonetheless, you can't get rid of the black belt, right? So why didn't they just get rid of the blue belt and say, this is the undisputed World Heavyweight Championship of WWE and keep the black belt?
So what is his official title? WWE
World or Universal Heavyweight Champion of the world. So before he was just the Universal Champion, then he added the WWE Championship. So now it's the WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion.
So let's take the belts. Take the belts, throw them away. Let's focus on the name.
Okay.
Does that name carry on the lineage of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship?
So because it's combined, it encapsulates both. So Same thing happened with the World Heavyweight Championship when they combined the two and got the WWE logo.
Okay.
When they did that, they said, okay, we're taking the World Heavyweight Championship from Raw and the WWE, and then they started calling that the undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Championship.
Gotcha.
It included the WWE Championship and the World Championship. Now we're including the WWE Championship, which already had the World Championship in it, with the Universal Championship in it. So if you really wanted to call it what it is, then it would be the WWE Universal World Heavyweight Championship. But you can't say Universal and World again. So do you see the mess that we're in here? This
clear as mud.
What a tangle when we weave when our job is to deceive. We have no idea what we're doing in WWE headquarters right now. We've got a F cluster of belts going on over here that, it almost came out that time. I don't want to send him back to the editing room to fix my work. But that's what we're really dealing with here. Now, as we say all that, now you have to strip the World Heavyweight Championship out of the black belt that it's already been combined with, and now reinstitute it as its own heavyweight championship and then extend the lineage on from that.
All right.
How in the hell do you get away with doing all that and it makes sense?
So now we're transitioning into our final point.
Oh, God.
How do we fix this? How do we fix this?
So you got an option. So we got to hear your, because I have nothing. I'll be honest, I have nothing.
So what you were just saying about the wording, how do you strip that from this and blah, blah, blah. So maybe, just maybe, they are waiting on all of the pieces of the puzzle to come together, the stars to align. Maybe, just maybe, going back to Rhea and Bianca, maybe
are they going to be the world heavyweight champ?
Maybe they're planning on unifying that belt because it was teased. Don't you remember? It was teased, and it's been teased several times for them two having a huge match. And if they're going to go down this road, unify the women's, the tags are already unified. Roman's belts were unified. If they unify everything across the board, then they can introduce single belts to the winners. And it be all three new belts, new designs, just like the new World Heavyweight Championship is designed.
Well, yeah, but
Not the same design, but
not
just
gonna,
new belts.
They're not going to redesign the World Heavyweight Championship that they just introduced.
Well, no, they're not going. They're not. That will be itself in its iteration, because what that truly is, that's Big Gold version 2.0. That's what that is. And that's the lineage that's going to carry on.
Yeah.
But the WWE women's belt, the tag belts, and then Roman's situation, all three of those situations get new belts. Maybe that's why we haven't seen it yet.
Okay,
maybe they're waiting.
So I see where you're going, but so help me out then. So then, if they unify the women's belts, then whoever the champion goes from show to show.
They all float.
Well, then, but Roman can't float.
Roman will float.
He can't if there's already a heavyweight champion over there, though. I mean,
the draft is already broken at this point in my eyes. They can do whatever they want.
They can, but so here's the thing. Here's the problem that I see with that. People are already considering the World Heavyweight Championship a secondary title.
Right.
Now, whoever wins it ain't going to be Roman, right? And there ain't nobody on roster or that's going to equivalent to Roman right now, at least. So if you put that belt on anybody.
Well, what if this plays? Roman's belt stays SmackDown. Whoever wins the new belt stays Raw. One brand gets the women's belt. One brand gets the tags belt. Because you already have the U.S. belt on one brand and you have the Intercontinental belt on the other brand. Maybe it plays like that.
So they tried that before, but so if that happened, when they tried that before, the problem was if you've got women on, let's say SmackDown gets the tag belts, right? Let's say the women's champion goes to Raw, because that would be Rhea and she would stay with her faction. What are any of the women that are on SmackDown? Why are they even in wrestling?
That's where all that free trade bull crap used to come in. Remember?
Right. That's the problem that they ran it. Because remember when they very first did the brand split, the main champions, that's exactly what they did. They floated. The very first Undisputed Chris Jericho and all, they floated. And they put the women's on one. They put the Intercontinental on. They split those. And they did that with the tag belts. They had one set of tag belts and one women's. And that's when they had to reintroduce that new set of tag belts on SmackDown, because Raw had the only belts. And they're like, well, if I'm a tag team and I got drafted to Raw or to SmackDown and the belts are over there, what am I tag teaming for? I have nothing to wrestle for.
So let me ask you this, playing devil's advocate. Is the belt situation the problem, or is it the freaking draft that keeps screwing everything up? That's the problem.
Well, the belts have been messed up for a long time. The draft could have solved it, but they didn't.
They chose
not to do it. So you can't blame that on the draft, because the draft its intent should have been to fix all this. Mm-hmm. You draft the correct way as you need to fix all this, and everything's good. You mishandle the draft or you mismanage the draft, then you end up with the nonsense that we got now. So, I mean, it's the belts. The belts is the problem.
So
there's too many of them, and they're too widely spread.
What I heard you say was Vince is the problem. That's really
essentially. But I mean, Vince has been out for a year.
No, Vince started this whole unification mess.
True, he did. But I mean, Triple H has had plenty of time to somewhat rectify it, and he's not. I mean, he created another belt, which is, it just complicated things further. I get where he was going with it, but you got to clean up your other messes before you could go, start new messes. What do they say? You can't pour from an empty cup. If you're already in a world of mess over here, you don't just keep piling on to it. You clean it up. You fix it. And they wouldn't even needed to create that new belt. They could have situated this in the right way and said, hey, you know what? We love this belt. Design that blue nonsense. We'll just phase it right on out. Replace it with this belt. Everything would have been nice and clean and simple. And all this other one belt is the consolation prize, and it doesn't carry as much weight as the other. Yeah. All that would be gone. Everybody would feel like equals like we did before. To whereas now, I don't know, if I was wrestling for it, I mean, AJ Styles literally just did an interview recently where he even said, how could you not think that this belt is a secondary title? Because Roman, you basically said you had to create it because nobody could beat Roman for the big titles.
Yep.
And he's wrestling for the damn thing, and he don't even understand it. So, I mean, I don't know. What the F are we doing here?
It's all a huge conundrum. It is something that we're just going to have to see how it plays out. We're going to have to just either grin and bear it or just, nobody's going to walk away from it. I'm not going to walk away from it.
It is what it is, but I mean, it does make my interest wane a little bit. So yeah, we're not hanging it up by no means. You know, I've seen a lot of more egregious stuff in wrestling that would make me walk away more than the title situation. But it, you know, while I should be watching wrestling and being excited about where the next storyline's going, all too often I find myself wandering down this path in my mind of what the hell are we doing here? So it's just taken away from the bigger picture.
I got to throw this out there. I know we're strapped for time, but I got to throw this out there.
All right, what you got?
All right, so $1 million belt.
Oh, God.
$1
you want another belt?
No, $1 million belt.
Okay.
How many diamonds did that thing have?
$1 million. It was $1 million.
Okay.
$1 a diamond.
All right. So let's say Roman does get a new belt.
Yeah.
Could it have 1,000 diamonds in it to celebrate his 1,000 days?
No, he just passed 1,000 days. I think yesterday or the day before, based on when we're recording. Congratulations, Roman, 1,000 days. But
put your one up.
Put your ones up out there. Put your damn ones up. But I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with it. At some point, they need to consolidate the belts, but you can't consolidate it without losing something's history.
Yeah.
So at this point, you gotta sacrifice the blue belt. I get it. SmackDown probably loves it because it's the blue belt on the blue brand. And I get it from marketing that they can sell a ton of blue belts to people who like the color blue, but it's effing up everything you're doing on TV. It's effing up your day-to-day base. You gotta give it up. You gotta let that go.
Speaking of letting it go, we're gonna let this episode go.
All right, I gotta let this subject go.
Come down off your soapbox there,
oh
Frank.
My goodness.
So
not to say we won't revisit this depending on the outcome of Night of Champions.
So with that, everybody, hit us up on our social media platforms. Let us know your thoughts on the situation with all these titles and what's going on. How would you fix it? What would you do? You know, if you got the best answer in the world, please, by all means, post it on there. You know, we'll find Tripp's number and give him a call and say, hey, man,
we got connections. We'll make it happen.
No, we don't. But we appreciate you listening, everybody. And with that, we bid you adieu.
Peace.
Today's podcast was produced by SBP. You can find our podcast on all major podcast platforms. Also connect with us on our social media accounts. Search for The Bookers Alliance on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.